Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
The podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we are reading Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
But not the Miss Marvel. Well, actually, it's probably the Miss Marvel you think of, but not the one I think of, because this is the new one, the Kamala Khan version of Miss Marvel that came out in 2015 and is going to be on a show that aired this week?
No, it's going to be airing this next week. We're actually ahead of the curve on this one.
I don't know these things. John is the Marvel show person, so
yes, I didn't know much about her, and so I was excited to read this. I know that they've changed a tiny bit of her power, at least for the show.
Tiny bit. No, well, apparently it's like the entire thing.
We'll see.
They're like, it's the spirit. It's the same. I'm like, so you changed it all.
Yeah. On the cover here, she's got her really big fist, and I remembered seeing something like, okay, she's got like Mr. Fantastic-y powers a little bit.
Yes.
And supposedly in the show, those type of powers are more cosmic-y.
I don't remember what we talked about last time, like when we were saying we're going to read this.
Yeah.
I mean, so my impression of her powers from both people who did like her and didn't like her was her hands get big.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty shitty power. And I was like, I don't understand. And that's like what the covers are. A lot of the covers are her hands are big.
Yeah, and literally, yeah, like just that. It's
just
like,
the hands. Like
everything
she
else
looks
looks normal, except she's got
and then she's got big hands. So I was kind of like, this really reminds me weird. Of that Family Guy episode where everybody gets powers and Meg can grow her nails out. Yeah. That's what that reminded me of. Like, why wouldn't you give a fuck about a superpower like that? And like how, but also she's in like the Avengers and shit. So I'm like, how does that power get you on the Avengers? I don't understand. So, but like I said, this was not just from people who were haters.
Hawkeye is part of the Avengers, sir, and he just shoots arrows.
But well. And precisely.
That's true.
And he's got like kind of like Green Arrow. He's got multiple types of arrows that come in handy.
True.
So, but yeah, he shouldn't be on the Avengers either. While you're saying that, so I mean, like, what's he gonna do against Thanos? Not much.
That's true. We didn't see him go up against Thanos, did we?
All the other people, even Cap, who's semi-human. He's still a person. He's just super person. I mean, he actually went up against Thanos. There was no scene where Hawkeye's like, let me just whip out my bow. And, there's none of that shit.
Nope.
So, yeah. So, like I said, proponents of this and people who didn't like her were both saying, oh, yeah, her hands get big. Like, that's what. And even when, like, the show, they're talking about, like, her powers are changing slightly, supposedly. And they're, like, talking about her hand size. So I was like, okay. If Disney is putting this out, then it's got to be. That's her powers. Her hands get big. That is not her fucking power.
No, she's got. Actually, her power set is really cool.
Very cool power set. And I don't understand why they fucking insist on leading with she's got big hands. I don't understand that. But just to clear the air of that, her power set is shape-shifting with like the body of Reed Richards. So she can stretch really far and everything and make things bigger or smaller. But she can also shapeshift her appearance and her clothes and all that. So
yeah, everything. Like she make herself look like a completely different person.
Yeah. So it's just a weird thing that they lead with that, completely.
Yeah, because like if you were like, oh, like I would lead with, oh, she has like kind of like scroll powers, and you're like, oh, what?
Yeah, or she can shapeshift. That would be the word I would use. Yeah. She has a morph body or whatever. She can do whatever she wants with it. Okay, cool. That's way cooler than look at her hands. Look how big her hands are. Isn't that cool? And then, like I said, it's not just big hands. She gets a small hand in this, and it reminded me of Deadpool.
Yeah, that's a little baby.
It's a little baby hand. But yeah, like that's a way cooler power than big hands. I don't understand why they don't lead with that, but they don't. So, but the comic does. Like that's the one thing I liked about reading this was, and I'll say this: I had a little bit of bias. This doesn't seem like my kind of character. I like it just in general. Like I'm not a big Marvel fan anyway, and this is very Marvel-ish, but. I was telling John, like, if this had come out when I had like a good amount of money to throw at comics, and I was like, oh, there's a new Marvel hero, cool, let me check it out. I probably would have bought this first story arc for sure, just monthly, because I think it's a really fun comic overall, and like a good origin story for the most part. There were some things I had trouble with, but we'll get into that as we get into it. But yeah, we'll just start off. The writer of this is a person named G. Willow Wilson. I don't know what else she's written. I know she's written other stuff because I've seen her name on things, and I don't know why. Sometimes people have names that you're like, hey, what's that? Like, she's got one of those names for me. Like, when I see her name, before I knew she did any of this, I just see G. Willow Wilson. I'm like, that's a cool name. I don't know, like,
it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, maybe I'll check that out just because her name looks cool. Or it's like when you see a cool cover or something. Yeah. And then you flip on the inside, you're like, what is this? But like the cover itself attracts you. Sometimes names do that with me. Like if you got a cool name or a way that you write your name, it might be because it's G, like the letter G dot. Yeah. Willow Wilson. So I think like there's another guy named P. Craig Russell, and I'm like, he's another one. So maybe it's just the mysterious. What's your first name? What's the P stand for? What does the G stand for? You got something to hide? Maybe you're just such a good writer or whatever that you're hiding your first name. But it's like too cool for school. There's also like the three. If a writer or artist has three names, like their middle name in their full name, like that's another thing where I'm like, oh, who's that? Because it's like Sean Gordon Murphy. Who's Sean Gordon Murphy? I know Sean Murphy, but this Gordon guy, I think he's got a future. He piques my interest. I don't know why. It's a weird thing that I've noticed I get sometimes. Like it's just different.
Well, I think it's because you're getting that full name, so it kind of pops out a little too.
Yeah, it just pops off the shelf compared to like, hey, it's John Smith. Yeah. All right, cool. But if it was J. John Smith,
you'd be like, what?
I'd be like, who's J. John Smith? It's John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. But anyway, so yeah, and the art is by Adrian Alfona, and I don't know about you, but I really liked this art actually. Yeah, I thought it fit the comic really well, the style, and like what they're like, the vibe of it. We'll say like it had a really good, fun vibe for the most part, and like everything was on point. There was only a couple things that I was like, okay, I don't like that, but it's not a big enough deal to really matter. And we'll point that out as we go through. But this first story arc is the first 5 issues of the Miss Marvel series from 2015. And we start off with meeting our main character, Kamala Khan. She is at a corner store, I guess?
Yeah, it's
bodega.
Yeah, I would say, well, let's call them bodega because she's in New Jersey, and New Jersey, New York area. They're no longer corner stores; they are known as bodegas.
Bodegas, okay, whatever.
The Circle Q.
There you go. The quick stop, if you will. And so they're there, and she's looking at meat sandwiches. So right away they introduce you to her, and her family are Muslim, and you also get like just with this little exchange about, oh, she wishes she could eat a sandwich. She wants to smell it, but because it smells so good, but she can't eat it because of her religion and stuff. So they start off. This is like a way to kind of encapsulate the inner struggle she goes with through the whole comic, and that struggle is like the fight against her becoming a woman because she's like in high school right now, and also like finding her own identity, like who is she, in herself, and then also like the struggle with her religion that she's grown up in, and like either identifying with that or pushing it away in order to fit in.
Yeah, it's that teenage thing where you come from, and not everybody experiences, but people who have like a really religious home, like sometimes that does become your like parents. You're like, parents, what do they know? But
they just don't understand.
They just don't understand. And and then I'm always having to go to mass with them or church or in this case going
or snake biting sessions.
Or going to speak in tongues, whatever it is that you
gotta go talk to Xenu.
And so it's that almost part of that rebellious thing of like, is this what I want to do with my life?
What? But it's not quite rebellion. It's like, because rebellion is like, this is stupid.
That's true.
I don't want any of it. It's like, I value my religion or culture or family or whatever, my heritage, but, and I think it's important, like she is religious in this and it's not like she's not, but at the same time, it's like, because she's growing up, she wants her own independence for certain things and like to step out on her own. And part of that is, do I try to fit in with like the like white kid culture or whatever here and like, just kind of not stop being Muslim, but just like not as hardcore or not as involved in my life or whatever as it was before? Or do I turn hard and like go into it really hard, or do I just stay like kind of like moderate or whatever? So that's kind of like the overarching theme of this first story arc, at least, of her becoming this hero. And so she's in there and she's talking to her friend who's the owner, or
he works there, Bruno.
And I thought Bruno was like way older than her, but apparently they're like the same age. Like they're both like 16.
Yeah.
But like he looks to me like he's like 19.
He hit that puberty spurt. He shot up.
He's got
up over the summer. He got the little mustache.
And he is also, no, he's white, right?
I mean he's not Pakistani.
Okay. I wasn't sure because like his brother shows up later on and his brother looks pretty white.
Yes.
And then I was like, okay.
It's hard. I don't think they quite say it in this, but I just know that like when they're talking layers, like the parents obviously aren't as accepting of him because he's not Muslim and he's not Pakistani.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, that's right. They do mention that. So yeah, I don't know if he's Muslim at all or anything, but he's friends with Kamala, and then her sister is there as well. And what's her sister's name?
Nakia.
Nakia, that's right. Oh, that's right, because they call her like Kiki.
Yeah,
she's like, don't call me.
She's like, I am not a little girl anymore.
Yeah, so they're all talking, and obviously the sister's like, you can't have the sandwich. Like, Dad would be pissed if you ate that sandwich, and also just you can't have it. And so while they're talking, these two white kids come in from their high school. One's named Zoe, and she's like super annoying white girl. Basically, this is my biggest problem with this comic. The way that everybody talks, but specifically this character, is like clueless.
Oh, you're showing your age, old man.
Yeah, it's Valley Girl.
I understood all of this. I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you serious? I was like,
I'm hip on the.
Don't know what they're talking
on those TikToks, man.
I'll say it's not that I didn't know what they were saying because I am also hip on them TikToks, but that's not true. I don't play around with that. But why'd you look at me like that?
Nothing. I was laughing at you.
But like just the amount of slang jargon that is like, we are teenagers.
Yes.
Is like, and because it's written by someone who's not a teenager, I think it just came off a little bit silly. Kind of like Clueless does when you look at it. So
I definitely can see that.
That's what I meant by Clueless. Not that they're using those words, but it just felt like, what are the kids saying nowadays? Just throw totes in a lot and like, like, oh, yeah. Like, just like whatever shit like that. Like just.
Yas, Queen, slay.
Yeah, yes, exactly. There's lots of that in that shit. And it's just like,
all right.
I don't know if they say it quite like that, but all right. I mean, they do it in text form for sure, but I don't know if people literally say LOL or whatever, or things like that. Because I was like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say LOL. It's usually relegated to the text realm because it is a text word.
How would you know, old man?
That's right. I don't really hang out with kids, but you know what, John? You don't know either. Shut your fucking mouth, Mister. Oh, I know everything about kids. But anyway, so the dialogue in this was like the hardest thing for me to get into it. I was like, ooh, I don't know. I like this. This is the first 3 pages, and I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Like, I don't want to shit all over this comic because generally I don't like to. Like, if I don't like something, I'll just say I didn't like it and leave it at that. I don't need to bitch about it constantly or like harp on it or make 10 videos about it. Other people do that shit and it annoys me, or like it just brings down me in general. Like I don't like that. I don't like negativity.
Yeah, we're not here. If it's something you love, we would never like go hard on it and be like, well, we hated it and you should
I won't
hate
say
it
that
too.
we wouldn't never go hard on it, but we wouldn't try to go hard on it.
We wouldn't say you should hate it too.
Oh yeah, no, for sure we wouldn't say that. I'm always of the mind of you should like what you like and buy it and support it.
Oh yeah.
I will do the same, and that is not what you like. You know what I mean? Like whatever you are into with this comic, not my thing. But if you like it, go for it. That's super cool. So at first I was like, we're gonna read this, and I hope I'm not gonna get any hate about it because I am not liking this so far. It just felt like super heavy-handed as an intro to like these are teenagers. Get it? Like kind of thing. So, but basically the white girl and her boyfriend invite Kamala and what's the guy's name? Bruno, that's right. They invite them to a party that night. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, we know what's going to happen because something's got to happen for her to get powers or whatever. Because as of right now, she doesn't have powers. She's just a normal kid from New Jersey or whatever. And so then, and this was, okay. I also freaked out at this scene. The next page we see is just like a battle with like a dragon monster or something or crab monster, right?
Yeah.
And it's the Avengers fighting. And I was like, is this really the art of this book? Like, is this how they're going to draw Captain America? It is a fan fiction that she is drawing because she's a big fan of these.
Yeah, she's a big Avengers fan.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, thank God. When they revealed that it's her drawing of this, because I was like, wow, this is really, really whack as far as the art, if that's how they're going to draw the Avengers fight scenes or whatever. So, because, I don't know, it's hard to tell. At the beginning, they're just talking. So it could be. I've read people who, like, once people start fighting, the artist doesn't know exactly where arms should go and shit. So it's like, okay, is this what we're doing? But luckily that wasn't the case here. The art remains consistent, I will say, throughout this. I really enjoyed the art, actually. I thought it was good. The only thing I didn't like, and I'll say this because it's at the beginning. So whenever people are close up, perfect detail, nice and good. Whenever people are not even far away, but like in the middle distance, just slightly behind your main character, they have potato face.
They do. So
they have two dots and a smile or whatever, like a line for a smile as a face. No detail at all. To which I was like, what? Like, why are they drawing them like Muppets? Like, I don't understand. It was weird. And they do that consistently throughout the whole thing. So I don't know if that bothered you, but it bothered me.
It didn't bother me. It almost made me laugh, especially there's the one character, the one other friend, the chubbier one. Because every time you see him, that's the first time you see him, and I thought that was just his face at first. I was like, oh, this poor kid.
Yeah. They're really going hard on this guy.
God, they don't like the fat friend.
Yeah, they're like they're sizist or something. They're like, look at that fat dough ball. He doesn't even have features.
Yeah, exactly.
But two dots and a line for a smile.
A little like, smile.
So anyway, they go home, and that's where we see, or she's at home, and that's where she's drawing her fan fiction. She gets called down to dinner, and this is where we get introduced to her whole family. We meet her mom. I mean, I don't know if we need to say all their names or everything. We'll just say mom, dad, brother, or whatever. So we got the mom and the dad and the brother, and they are. I don't know if the mom and dad are as religious as the brother, but they are definitely of a not fundamentalist necessarily, but they are believing Muslims that are religious. They're a pretty religious family.
Yes.
The brother actually wears like a certain type of clothing and stuff, so he's on another level because the dad and mom wear kind of Western style or whatever. So, but they all go to a mosque and they all pray and are expected, and they expect Kamala to do all those things too. So that was interesting, just seeing this family, workings back and forth or whatever. And I don't know. What'd you think of her family?
I think it was good because like it has that religious undertone, but it's still very much like a kind of like what you would think of modern American family. The brother,
they're loving.
The brother is very much like, he's praying at the table, and the dad's like, yeah, I appreciate you pray so much, but how about you find a job too?
If you could find a fucking job,
like
that would be great.
I like that. It was very, again,
maybe you should pray to Allah for a job.
Yeah, for a job to bring some money into this. Yeah. So that was fun, and I like the. Again, the dad is very much like he's in his own world, but then still listening in on things, and so because he's reading a newspaper, and so like he chimes in at certain points. It was funny. It was very very much like that. Like, okay, dad.
Yeah. There was definitely that. So it's like while they're religious, more so than maybe other families, they are also just a normal family that have funny conversations, or the dad gets mad about stuff and the brother's an asshole or whatever. So like, just shit like that. It was cool to see their interactions, and it was fun. It was nice. It was like a nice, the family time.
Very sitcom-esque family.
And what did you say?
Sitcom-esque?
Oh, I thought you said communist family.
No, like sitcom.
I was like, wow, all right. John's just going hard at the paint. These fucking commies here.
Wow.
I don't know. They're Muslims, John, not communists. In fact, they fought those commies in the 80s. You ever see Rambo 3? The best Rambo?
The best Rambo? Yeah, the most bloody Rambo.
I'm joking. We all know the best one is First Blood.
Yes.
Or the last one.
I didn't see the last one.
You didn't see the last one. You don't need to. It's bad.
I saw Rambo 4. Rambo.
The one where he's in like Burma, right?
Yeah,
Myanmar.
The one that has the best memes of him like with the machine gun.
The best scene I've ever seen in an action movie. He takes, I think it's an M80 or M60, whatever. The machine gun, the big one that's on the turret, and he points it at the driver of the car that's like a foot away from the barrel of this gun, and he just unloads 50 caliber bullets into this man from a foot away.
Yes.
In one of the most hardcore scenes ever. And the guy is so evil that you're like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Like, that guy is a dickhead. So, that's anyway, that was our Rambo tangent. We get back to the family. And just like every family, if you've got a teenager who wants to go to a party and stuff, they can't let their teenager, especially in this family, and I'm only bringing this up because they make like specific point of it in the family, that she is a girl and girls are not supposed to go out and do things like this, go to parties or put themselves in situations where they could be taken advantage of or make bad decisions.
We know what happens at parties, and we need you to stay modest and
the word modest is used a lot. Yes. And that was my interesting point with this is, okay, so they're like leaning hard into the religion aspect of it, and it's like they care, but it's also from like a religious thing, like be modest because that's what women are supposed to be, things like that. So they definitely bring that side out, but the family is still underneath that like religiousness, like a loving family, which I think a lot of people could relate to. Obviously, all of us have, or a lot of us have families that are religious or whatever. My family, I grew up religious. You as well. Well, I don't know if you grew up religious, but they became religious halfway through your life or whatever. And it's like a weird transition of, or like, that they love you, but also there's like this religious thing that you're not sure if you're into the same as they are or whatever. And it's like an interesting push and pull aspect of it. So I like that that's in this character because it does feel realistic to someone who grew up in religion pretty hardcore. I wasn't like Baptist or something, or like not Baptist. Well, I wasn't like a super strict fundamentalist religion, but I was, enough that I went to church more than once a week, and went to youth group, and all that stuff. So yeah, pretty into it. So this really this felt like familiar to me. Like, I can relate to this character in that way. But like any teenager, she of course is like, man, fuck this. Like, I'm gonna go to this party because I want to go to this party, and they don't know what they're just fuddy-duddies, like they're just mom and dad. They I gotta go. I want to have fun. I'll be fine. I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation or whatever. But like she thinks of it like they don't trust me, but it's more like they don't trust the world, but that is outside of her or whatever. So so she climbs out the window and goes to this party. Now I thought this was a very weird place to have a party. It's in a park.
Yep.
Just a random public park.
I'm sure it's fine.
I was like, can you do that? You can't just throw a party at like 1 a.m. because they say she's out till like really late.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just go to a park without the police showing up. And they have like, when I say party, they have alcoholic drinks. They have a DJ with a loud stereo. That neighborhood is not going to be happy about.
Yeah, the onomatopoeias on the page of boom boom shaka shaka, really loud.
Shaka,
like there's
shaka,
some
boom,
music
boom,
going
shaka,
on, and
shaka.
it's like it's loud.
So. Those are their words, not mine. Boom boom shaka shaka. I'm not being
boom shaka shaka
racist or anything.
No, that's the music sounds. Or whatever.
Yeah, that's what the person who wrote this said music sounds like. So there we go. Anyway, so she goes to the party and she goes to meet Zoe, and it seems like it was the white girl from the bodega. I want to say convenience store every time. Bodega, and there was like an underlying current of it's not like forward racism, like you're brown so I don't like you, but it's like every time I see you I'm gonna point out that you're different than me.
Yeah, it's like that. It's not, you're not specifically being like, oh yeah, I hate you, but it's like, oh yeah, there's something on here. Oh, like, don't you do this at home, or don't you
Yeah, like, oh, you can't eat bacon. That's right. Well, anyway, we're all having bacon and date wraps or whatever. You know, like little things that are jabs that, like, I guess they call it passive racism or whatever, or like microaggressions and shit like that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what you would categorize it as. But it's like, I mean, this happens even with not just race, because, like, I don't know. I grew up big. You did too.
Yeah.
I got this shit all the time. Like, can you run?
Yeah.
This, Matt? Or like, are you able to walk up the stairs? Do you ever work out? Like, questions like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are things that I would get all the time as like a teenager and everything. And I think it's just teenagers being dicks in general. But she's kind of the embodiment. Zoe is the embodiment of that concept of like you're being treated like the other from a lot of people. I will say a lot of the other people in this comic don't really do that. Like adults and stuff don't say that to her. I don't remember, at least.
Not that I saw.
Yeah, there wasn't like the other kids besides Zoe don't really say anything like that, and neither do any of the adults or anything. So that was interesting. They could have, if they wanted to show it like more pervasive, just have more than Zoe be the character for that. But either way, she goes there and kind of feels that from Zoe and gets like kind of, okay, I'm just going to walk around on my own then, since Zoe's kind of being a bitch. And then they trick her, actually, because she says, oh, do you have anything that's not alcoholic? And they're like, oh, yeah, here's some orange juice. And then she takes a sip, and as she's taking a sip, they go, and vodka. And then she spits it out because it tastes gross. And then, although those are delicious. I mean, who doesn't want an orange vodka in the morning?
or at 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, or, when you wake up from alcohol.
With a hangover? Is that how you start your day?
No, not even hangover. Just, you're having, you haven't drank in 2 hours, so you need, getting the shakes and it wakes you up.
I have no idea about that.
Sure, John. We all know. We're all alcoholics here,
Sure.
I'm just kidding. We're not alcoholics. But.
So anyway, they trick her with this drink. And she spits it out, and they're like, oh, okay, well, whatever, I guess. And then Bruno shows up right at that time, too.
Yes, and he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys? She doesn't want to drink. And I didn't know, is that a religious reason? I'm not
100%.
I know that they can't. So we just took a break and looked that up because we didn't want to look like idiots. But we found out. What did we find out, John?
Yeah, I didn't remember specifically. And I feel bad because I did study a lot of the religions back in high school. But in particular, so in general, in Islam, drinking is prohibited. But there, in more secular Muslim cultures, it's okay. It's not
the end of the world.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Okay, so that's why I was wondering, like, is it like a really big deal right here? And I just don't understand the significance, because to me, I'm like, yeah, she didn't want to drink and you gave her a drink and then she's like, it's gross. But like, is this like, holy shit, like she just broke a commandment or something? You know what I mean? Like, is this a big deal to her? Didn't know, but it's good to know. It seems like her family is more secular, other than maybe her brother anyway.
Yeah.
So after Bruno gets done yelling at the guys who gave her alcohol, he's like, hey, maybe you should go home. Like, you're not supposed to be here. I know you're out, past curfew.
Yeah, I know your parents, they wouldn't want
to. And then, like, you don't want to get in trouble. And then Kamala gets mad about that because she's like, "What? You sound like my fucking parents. Like, I don't need
my
you.
Friend, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't need you telling me how to live my life or whatever." So she walks away. And as she walks away, we see this weird mist going through the entire city. Like I don't know. Is this New York?
No, it's New Jersey.
I don't know. How close are they?
They're close, but not that close. You gotta go over the bridge.
I wasn't sure. Well, that's why they're on a waterfront. So I thought,
yeah.
Is that supposed to be New York across the water and it's coming from New York? Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know, but it's a lot. It's like pillowing over the city.
I mean, it's like half tall of the skyscraper, like half the height of a skyscraper. So, I mean, it's very thick fog. You can't see through it, and it's coming towards them. And they just walk into that shit. Like, they don't even say, like, what is that? They're just like, cool, fog or whatever. Like, someone brought a fog machine. So everybody's in it and walking away. And we see Zoe and her boyfriend are super drunk as they walk through this. And Bruno is trying to find Kamala in the fog, but she walked out of the park and is like, on her own now. So as she's walking, I thought this was funny because it was totally what you would do as like someone who's never drank before and you're kind of sheltered. Like, she starts feeling dizzy from the fog, obviously, but she's like, is this what being drunk feels like? Like I'm just high off one sip.
One sip.
And so she like starts seeing double and then passes out. And like luckily she does it like right under like a street light or whatever, so that's nice. But she has like a vision of Captain Marvel like talking to her in a language. I don't know what language this is.
It's Urdu.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
That's I believe it's most widely spoken in Pakistan.
Okay. Good to know. So she's talking to her, and Kamala's like, I didn't know you spoke Urdu. like, because it's Captain Marvel talking to her. And I think Captain Marvel, right? Not Captain America.
Well, Captain America is also there and Iron Man. So.
Yeah, but Captain Marvel is the one that she looks up to the most. So she's like, I want to be like you or whatever. And so they're talking, and
I love also, it's also like got some of the weird creatures that I guess kind of were part of. That's how you know it's definitely a vision too, is some of the weird creatures that you either saw stuffed animals of in her room or they were part of the original fan fiction that she was writing.
Yeah, like a bird with a fucking like
looked like a sloth, like it looked like a sloth with wings.
Oh, there's a sloth with wings, and there's a bird with like what are those Canadian hats called? Those hats that go down over the back of your neck.
Oh yeah, I know
the Pete and Pete hats,
yes.
Whatever those are called. I don't know. But yeah, so and then they're like talking to her. Like, basically, they're her conscience. Like, they're her conscience in her subconsciousness that's giving her a lecture about, like, you disobeyed your parents.
Yeah.
And this is what you get. Like you're going to get in trouble now, and, you're going against your religion and your culture, and just so your classmates would accept you and stuff like that. So
they're like, you're at a crossroads in your life, and what are you going to do?
Yeah. And so she... like comes out of this vision and is like, what am I gonna do? Like she really does, like, that's, like I said, the crux of this storyline is like, who are you gonna be? Who am I? And so it turns out that when she was passed out, like, her body made a cocoon for her, because now that mist was special mist. It wasn't regular mist. We don't know anything about that mist in this series, though, like in this trade that we read. We find out later, I will just spoil it, that is mist. Was it called Tarragon?
I think
Tarragon.
Tarragon, something like that. It's the mist that if you are of the inhuman species,
I guess,
that it awakens your inhuman powers.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like being a mutant, but you have to be exposed to this certain kind of gas for it to reveal itself. And so if you don't know who the Inhumans are, and you would know at least one character if you saw the new Spider-Man movie, or sorry, not Spider-Man, Doctor Strange movie, because Black Bolt, who gets his fucking face or melted or crushed or whatever,
yeah,
he gets his face crushed in and his mouth missing and everything. So that's Black Bolt. He's the leader of the Inhumans. They live on the moon, and they are another kind of species of, not mutants, but like superpowered people.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. I actually, like, I've read one book by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee on the art. Oh, amazing art.
I read some cool crossover stuff with like the Illuminati with them.
Yeah, they're very much like a Fantastic Four.
Yeah, exactly.
Group. Like, they show up in that more than anything. So, but from what I've read of them, I like them a lot. Black Bolt's power was very minimized in the movie, I thought. Like, Like,
well, I think they because it wasn't his movie, they didn't like play.
I know, but but like the fact that they just crush his skull just makes him seem super like okay.
But they let him. They did show it because they showed him kill the other Doctor Strange from that universe.
I just think they didn't explain it well enough because he's just like die or whatever.
He said he could kill you with one like syllable or something.
I know. Something about it didn't click with me.
I was
right?
fine with me.
In my mind, in the comics, it's way cooler than it was on film. All right.
I was fine with it.
John, you're fine with everything. All right.
Marvel does no wrong.
There's a reason why you do all the movie and TV show reviews and stuff because we have differing opinions.
I know we have good different opinions. It would be good. Look, if you want us in the future to discuss these, I think it would be good to let us know.
It would just be me being like, "This show sucked," and you'd be like, "This
no,
show was amazing."
Really good.
And like, that's the end of the review.
It stinks.
It stinks.
I loved it. The end.
The end. Oh my god, we need to make that like trailer or that like picture for our review of if we ever do stuff like that. Just me being like, "It stinks,"
with your arms crossed.
Yeah.
And like my hands are up, like, I loved it.
Exactly. Anyway, so that mist transformed her body, like awoken the X gene, we'll call it, or whatever, inside of her. And her body made a cocoon while she was passed out. She breaks out of it, and she now looks like a very young version of Captain Marvel, but when Captain Marvel was Miss Marvel. So if you didn't know, Captain Marvel from the movies, Carol Danvers, for a while, I'd say about 20 to 30 years, was the original Miss Marvel. And she had a specific costume that was basically like a what's that, like a onesie bathing suit?
Yeah, like a one-piece bathing suit look.
Yeah, one-piece bathing suit with like thigh-high boots and shoulder-long gloves or whatever. And or like was it bicep long gloves?
Arm length.
There you go. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know anything
up
about
to
fashion.
almost your shoulders.
There you go.
And then she wore like some kind of like
a sash
across her abdomen.
Yeah. Sounded like you were going to say something else there, John.
No.
A sash across her vagina.
and a mask, because all superheroes have to have like a little like what is that? Lone Ranger mask.
Your street cred just went out the window, John. Yeah, Lone Ranger mask or Zorro mask or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, the kind that like don't even wrap around your head though, like it just somehow clings to your face.
Yeah.
It's a Nightwing mask.
Yeah. Or the Green Lantern movie mask that just like,
yes, but at least that makes more sense because you can construct a mask.
Yeah.
This is just somehow it's there. But yeah, but also not only that, she was a brown skinned Pakistani girl. Now she is a blonde hair, blue eyed white girl. So she looks a lot like a young version of Carol Danvers. And so that's like the end of that first issue is her being like, "What? What's going on?" So she basically finds out, and I thought this was cool. As she comes out of that cocoon, she's like, "What's going on? I'm gonna puke." Like, kind of like she's going through her body's still morphing or whatever. And then, like, even with that, like, her body is morphing because she begins to, like, fall and then, like, to puke. And then all of a sudden her limbs, like, go slack and, like, lose form. And it's crazy how, like, they did it.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorite panels. It's, like, half her coming back to Kamala and then half of Miss Marvel look. Like it's a fun panel.
Yeah, and then she like does eventually turn back into her original Kamala Khan self, and she's like, "What the hell?" And then she's like, "Okay, I'm okay. That was a weird dream or a vision or something. Maybe someone drugged me like at the party or some shit." And then all of a sudden it starts again. It's kind of like she's getting. I don't know if this is like necessarily an analogy to getting your first period or something, where like you get cramps all of a sudden or some shit. But like that's kind of how I thought of this as well. Is like now you could look at this as many different things. Like she's just becoming a woman at this point too, like because she's going to also find her identity and all that kind of stuff later. So it's just a young girl growing up in front of our eyes or whatever, and
really quickly,
and very quickly. So, but this transformation kind of just. I was like, I could see how someone could read into this, like, this is supposed to represent, like, the transition from, like, child to woman or whatever, you know what I mean? So, as far as, like, biologically with, like, period or menstruation or whatever. So, but yeah, maybe I'm reading too much into that. I don't know. But she runs away from that area, and like I said, she's falling apart. Like there's a lot of kind of, it's silly looking because it's kind of like the way it's drawn. But if this was a movie directed by David Cronenberg, it would fit because like there's all this like body parts of her just like Laffy Taffy. They're just falling all like crazy ways, and looks like her legs are going backwards the wrong way and shit. Like because her body is like morphing on her, and she doesn't have any control of it yet. So it's very interesting. And she also sees like as she's running, she kind of goes towards the water, and we see like helicopters flying over, like looking at the fog, like what's this? And then so she's like, okay. And this is one of my only criticisms, or one of my criticisms of this book is like she gets a pretty good handle on this. Like whereas like Peter Parker, when he becomes Spider-Man, and I'm sure that was like 2 pages or something, and those are early comics or whatever, but like he gets bit, he gets feeling bad, then he like wakes up, and then he's like, okay, like I feel better, and then he's like, what? I have all these powers, and then he goes to like try them out, but it seemed like that was over like a day or 2. This is like I come out of a cocoon, and I'm like, what? That's weird. Helicopters, my body's falling apart, and then she's like, all right, obviously I can transform. Like she just comes to that notion like really, really quick of like, oh, my body can do whatever I want it to do. So that was like a 30-second, I'm thinking, thought process, you know, of like, I came out of a cocoon. That's a little weird. And like, my body's not working to, you know, now I must be a superhero. So like, but right away she goes into that mindset. Maybe it's because she's so into superheroes. She's like, oh, no problem. Like maybe if me or you got superpowers all of a sudden, it wouldn't freak us out. We'd be like, I am the knight.
Exactly. Yeah. Brett, we would be like, oh man, I got to figure out my identity.
Hey, honey, can you make me a costume? I want you to put ghillie sacks all over me so I can look like Swamp Thing.
Honey, I got one word. Pouches.
Yes, exactly.
Pouches.
Straps and pouches. I want a belt that goes from my bicep to the bottom of my calf. But it's got to connect to 4 other belts on the way down. And no, they're not holding anything up. They are just there to look fucking cool.
Yes.
All right. So, so yeah, but she goes straight to that mindset, and she sees someone fly over. I don't remember who.
She says she thinks it's maybe Captain Marvel. She's not sure.
Yeah, or Iron Man even, doesn't she say later? But either way, she's like, oh, Captain Marvel. And then, so she's like, I want to transform and help out too. So she tries to make herself transform, so she yells, transform! And it doesn't do anything. And then she sees Zoe and her dumb drunk boyfriend, and they're on a dock that's in front of her, and they're drunk, and they're like messing around, and the whole time Kamala's like, I don't want them to see me. So she shrinks down. She finds out she can shrink her body super small. And without thinking about it, she does it on accident at this time or whatever. So we're learning her powers with her, obviously, as the audience. But on the dock, Zoe and her boyfriend are like, you know, the boyfriend's pretty drunk. He's being an idiot, but like, you know, they're dancing and stuff. He's kind of trying to make her dance on the pier, but she is drunk as well. So then, because they're drunk, they're on this dock, and he's like, don't worry, babe, I got you. And he tries to like spin her or something. And he grabs her coat thinking that it's her dress or whatever. And she flies into the water because the coat just comes off of her. And he's like, oh my God, Zoe. And then apparently she's so drunk she can't swim. So Kamala Khan sees this and is like, it's time, it's morphin' time or whatever. She yells, embiggen, because she was small. So she grows, and then and she now looks like Captain Marvel again, Miss Marvel. So she's white and has blonde hair and is in the old Miss Marvel costume. And so she goes down and saves this is the first time she grows her big hand, which is the infamous big hand.
Yes.
But she grows her hand from the dock and just scoops her up. I'm like, why don't she just swim?
Because she had to find her big hand powers.
I guess.
This is the powers everybody's
But she picks up a bunch of like trash and other shit too. So like the girl Zoe is just like laying in a bed of mud and trash when she picks her up. I'm like, that can't be fun. But she's not dead at least. So she did save her life. And then as everybody's like, oh my God, Zoe, are you okay? Then all these other high schoolers see her and they're like, oh my God, this is totes going on the internet. And like, saying their like Valley Girl talk or whatever. Yeah. And taking pictures of her with their phones. And they're like, who are you? What's your name? Are you Miss Marvel? What's going on? And so she doesn't quite know. So she kind of runs away. And I thought this was funny. She doesn't know how to control her powers. And now that she's not in like hero mode, they're not going away, but she doesn't know how to tell them to go away. And she keeps being like, disembiggen or, hand grow small or whatever. And it won't stop. Like her hand is still
very, very like that Sam Raimi, like up and away web.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It was very much like Spider-Man 1 when he gets his powers. Or is it Spider-Man 1? I don't know what to call it now.
It's Spider-Man.
Okay. The original Spider-Man from the 2000s. So yeah, she just runs away down the dock with like a giant hand, which I thought was funny. Like, don't look at me, I'm a freak. My giant hand. So yeah, then she eventually is able to shrink her hand by just thinking about it. And this is where I was saying that she gets like a tiny hand, isn't it? Isn't this the part where her hand grows too small?
Not quite.
Oh, it's not quite. Okay. Well, anyway, she's walking through like she's not flying. She still looks like Captain or Miss Marvel. She still looks like the old Miss Marvel. And she's walking through the streets and there's like, people seeing her, but she gets a homeless person's shirt because he's like, hey, lady, you look cold or whatever because she's wearing. They comment on the old suit because it's, a bathing suit or whatever, basically.
Yeah. So he gives her his jacket.
Yeah. He's like, I know I'm poor and live out of a cart, but you look like you could use this a lot more than me. And he gives her like a shitty shirt. So she wears this sweater. I guess it's a sweater. And goes back to her home. She walks the streets like this, just back to her house because she can't fly, I guess, or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, she didn't have Miss Marvel's power set. She just looks like Miss Marvel,
right? But she could at least like maybe grow like telescoping legs or something.
She doesn't know all that yet.
Oh, that's true. I guess she's just learning her powers. What are you gonna do? So she sneaks back into her room, and I thought this was funny. She's like, it's a lot harder to sneak back in than it is to sneak out, which is so true. It's kind of like construction or something. It's a lot easier to demo things than it is to build it back up.
For some reason, you won't make any noise sneaking out of a place, but coming back in, everything that creaks will make some kind of noise will.
Yes.
It's a fact.
So as she comes in, she makes some noise, and her brother just happens to be walking by because he's getting a midnight snack or something. And he walks in. He's like, is that you, Kamala? And then he sees her in this. She's back in her normal form, but then she's got the homeless man shirt on and everything. So he's like, what the hell's going on? And then he's like, my sister is being corrupted by parties and stuff. And it's like, and then he's like, well, mom and dad already know you're gone, right? Like, like they found out a while ago. They're just waiting for you to come home. They're going to beat the snot out of you. And so, and then like we see the parents come in and they look very pissed. Like they've been sitting there all night waiting, worrying. And then we get the like classic parent talk of like, what's going on with you?
Yeah, you think you can do these things, you just can't.
Yeah, you used to be so good. What's happening to my little girl or whatever?
You're getting corrupted
by these youths. These evil youths.
So
So basically they ground her and tell her she's not allowed to do anything. And but then and they're saying like they told her like you have to think about what you're gonna become. You need like, who are you? Do you want to party and live a life of these whatever you call, I don't know, white kids or whatever that we live around, or do you want to like be a good woman person or whatever? And so after they leave, she like looks at a poster of Captain Marvel that she has, the Carol Danvers version, and it's she gets inspired by it, and she's like, I'm gonna be Captain Marvel or whatever, basically, or Miss Marvel. And so that's why she starts to think about her superhero-ness, like what she wants to be a superhero. She likes that idea. The next day, she's eating breakfast and she finds out that she's all the rage on the internets. They're like, some new Miss Marvel, like the Avengers wouldn't comment whether they have a new person on the team or whatever, but looked a lot like Carol, but a young version of her, was like rescued these people on the dock. And then we also see like the homeless people on the street are holding signs that say like fear the mist and stuff. Which I'm like, just from the night before they made those signs? Or is this a recurring thing? They should definitely have said, if it is a recurring thing, that like
it's that mist again.
You know that mist, how it fucks with people sometimes or whatever.
Oh, here comes that mist again that turned you inside out.
Oh, lock the windows or
lousy weather stripping.
One
chorus line of people dance until they make us stop.
Two. Anyway, that's an old Simpsons joke for anybody who was around in 1994 or whatever the fuck that came out. So, but anyway, yeah. So this is where we also get to meet Bruno's family a little bit. We see Bruno's talking to his brother, and he comes back later in the issues. So like, it's just the first time we see him talking to his brother, and then we see every morning before school, or I don't know if it's every morning or certain mornings, but. Kamala has to go, or is highly encouraged to go to the mosque to get. This is kind of like a Bible study, is what?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a religious study. They have the sheikh up. He's going over like different parts of the scripture, and then it also shows you a little bit of it in the culture, and I think that kind of plays into Kamala's character a little bit, is that the women are off to the side on this, and she can't quite see.
No, they can't see at all.
Yeah.
They're not allowed. Like, so they basically can hear him through a partition. So the men are allowed to sit with the teacher or whatever, and behind a partition, the women are sitting, and the guy says it's supposed to like keep you like it's for your modesty, like we're trying to make it so the guys won't stare at you or whatever. It's supposed to make you feel comfortable, but basically, in Kamala's eyes, it's like separating them. And it's basically like kind of a commentary on an older religion that hasn't quite caught up with the times. Basically, it's like, the same with. There's a lot of old religions that haven't quite caught up with the times on things. So, but this is like the critique of that, or they want the more modern version, or just Kamala's kind of wanting the more modern version of that kind of thing. So, but then we see her and her sister kind of leave there after they bicker with the teacher about why they have to sit behind a screen and everything. And then,
because they were talking, and he stopped it, and he's like, "Can y'all be quiet over there?
We can hear you through the petition." Like the partition. I said petition. So they get scolded or whatever. And afterwards they're talking as they go to it's the Circle Q, but it's the bodega that Bruno works at. And also she was told that Bruno was the one who ratted her out. So she's not talking to Bruno right now. She's kind of mad that he called their house and informed the parents that she was out at a party, because he was worried about her, he says. But there's also some like possible tension there as far as like romance possibly, at least in this initial volume. It seemed like, because she even says like there might be something there if he was Pakistani and Muslim or whatever, that would be a possibility, but no way mom and dad would be okay with that. So it just seems like they kind of aren't allowed to press it because of that. But so they go to the Circle Q. Well, her sister, we'll call her Kiki or whatever. Nakia. So Nakia goes in, but like Kamala's like, "No, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to see him." So that's like the interaction they're having there. And then she goes to school, and we see what school's like. And then we see that Bruno's brother and him are talking. And basically, Bruno's brother is kind of like, "So you going to do it? You totally steal the money from the cash register at the place you work." And he's like, "But that's stealing." And he's like, "No, it's not. You work there." Which I don't understand the logic of that. But it really seemed like the brother was dumb enough to actually think that it wasn't stealing if you work at a place. Yeah,
it definitely something's a little off about him. We can't quite put a finger on. His name is Victor too, and yeah, he's very not sketchy, but very like no common sense. It seems
no sense at all.
No sense at all. Yeah.
Not even common sense, just no sense. Because like I said, he's like, "Well, no, it's totally okay to steal." And I didn't know if they were being silly, because later on he's still as dumb.
Yeah.
In the rest of the comic. So it's kind of like,
he does make mention that like Bruno's got the brains in the family, and Bruno is like,
but like when you say brains in the family, you're like, okay, he's a genius, or he's like, not like, I am way below average intelligence.
Yeah.
So much so that I can't understand things like stealing is bad, or what belongs to me, or how firearms work at all, or, like things like that. I don't know. He's a weird character, but he's kind of like the plot device, because he's what the rest of this comic kind of the crux around where she becomes a hero. So, and
Bruno being smart, because Bruno at school here, I guess he's getting ready to go to college, or applying to colleges, and he's working on this.
And he's 16, right? So that means he's way smart. I didn't apply to college until I was like 18.
He's working on this.
I guess I should go to this place. I guess I don't know.
They codename it it's like super snot, but it's basically like some kind of something you put on clothes that makes it like super stretchy, elastic and stretchy.
Yeah, you can put it on anything and it makes it super. Or I guess clothes specifically.
Yeah,
cloth.
Any cloth. Yeah.
But yeah, so in the meanwhile, because I guess he scares Kamala, he asks her a question or something. He's like, Kamala, and then while she was typing at her computer, her hand gets small, just like the Deadpool hand, like little baby hand. And then she's like, "Oh fuck! Like I can't like show any. No one can see this." So she kind of runs away. He's like, "I have to use the bathroom," and then like goes into the gymnasium and into the shower, or I guess the locker room. And then she's trying to make her hand bigger, and then it does. And then she realizes, wait a second, if I can shrink, maybe I can grow. And then she tries to make herself grow, but it actually she grows so big that she hits the ceiling and ruins ceiling tiles, which I was like, God damn it.
Do you know how much this costs?
Fucking kid. Not even how much. You know how hard it is to fix ceiling grid? It's not a fun job, all right? But yeah, it's like a drop ceiling. So she hits the ceiling tiles, and then she's like, wait a second. I'm like, if I'm big, I have more mass. And as we all know, mass times something equals something. Yeah. So
she's more powerful.
She's more powerful, basically. Science, physics.
Yes.
The world of tomorrow. So she picks up one of the benches and just crushes it, and then kind of throws it around and stuff. And people hear this, of course, because they're like, what the fuck? And then she ends up getting detention for this, because she's not even supposed to be in there. It's funny because she shrinks down just in time as the coach walks in, like the girls' coach, and she's like, Kamala, what are you doing here? Did you do this? And it's just destruction. And she's like, no, how would I do this?
I walked in and found it like this.
Yeah, why would you think a child did this? Obviously, I didn't do this. But she's not supposed to be there anyway, so she gets detention. And she's like, God damn it, my parents, I'm already grounded. My parents are going to kill me because I'm getting detention now at school. And yeah, so she has to go to detention. Then she gets
a text from Bruno being like, hey, I'm sorry that I ratted you out, but I was just worried about you. And Kamala, they're friends, so she's like, I guess there's no, fighting this off. I gotta make up. And so
yeah, everybody has little tiffs with their friends or whatever, and especially when you're younger. And then it's just whatever, we're good. So as she's going to the bodega that he works to meet up with him, we see he's being robbed. She turns around the corner of the door and sees that he's being robbed. So she's like, oh my God, I have to call 911. But then she looks at her phone and she's got no batteries. Or the battery's dead, I should say. So she's got no batteries. What is this, a Game Boy? Yeah, anyway, it's not charged. So she is like, oh, okay, I gotta be, I'm a hero, right? This is the time to be a hero. But we also see what's going on the inside. We cut to that, and it's actually Bruno and his brother. His brother is robbing this place because he's like, you wouldn't do it, Bruno. You wouldn't take the money, so now I had to do this. And I'm in debt with this guy named Mr. Edison, or the inventor.
The inventor, yeah.
And, something's bad, and I just need the money, and I'm not going to tell you why exactly, but I need the money, so give it to me. Now, he does have a gun. A Beretta 92 or something. So, just...
He's got a gun. But it's also, he's never even really pointing at his brother. It's, on his hip or in the air.
He's pointing at it like it's his finger. Yeah. He's pointing at himself and the floor and anything in front of him. He's an idiot. Once again, an idiot. I thought this would have been a great time to put some gun safety in the comic or whatever.
You know, as
little hints like, hey, you know how to check that's loaded, right? You know, like
yeah, that's true. Because they're mentioning, and he's like, you weren't supposed to be here, Bruno, and he's like, yeah, I'm covering the shift for so and so. So you were gonna like rob with him? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm not. I didn't want to rob you.
And he's like, oh, my gun's not even loaded, so don't worry about
Yeah.
it. That's like the famous last words of any scene with a gun.
Yep.
Is don't worry, it's not loaded.
Okay.
Good times.
Yeah. For having like this kind of like nonchalant and just kind of like throwing around with this gun, it definitely would have been a good place to have, for a kid's comic, just throw a little bit of like, Bruno could be like, well, you don't know, how do you know it's not loaded? Like, why don't you, point it at the ground since, obviously this is silly.
Always treat a gun like it's loaded, no matter what.
Yeah, point it down, point it away.
You turn to the camera and you say, knowing is half the battle. Right? Classic Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes.
I don't think G.I. Joe ever had anti-gun messages either, or just like gun safety messages or whatever. But that would be a good, that should have been their thing, right? Because Captain Planet had the like, save the planet, recycle, kids, or whatever at the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to watch Captain Planet because they had magic in it. So.
But he's helping save the world and the environment.
That's some liberal left
He's our hero. He's going to take pollution down to zero.
Down to zero. I don't know. My parents were not with that magic thing at all. So, any magic? Care Bears? No Care Bears.
No Care Bears.
No Care Bears. You know what magic is? Satan. All right. So, as you can see, I grew up in a pretty religious family.
I watched Captain Planet.
I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons then. I watched it much later and was like, this is amazing. Why wasn't I allowed to watch this?
Yeah, it's a modern American family.
They did not want me to be like Bart.
Eat my shorts. I wasn't allowed to watch South Park
South Park is a little bit different.
A little more. That's true.
But anyway, back to this. So we see like they're talking, and this is where he reveals like, oh, I'm working for someone in the inventor, and then so she changes. I don't know if she changes like where she changes. She just is able to change really quick somewhere, and then bust through the wall. I thought this was funny actually. So superhero, it's a bodega. How much money do you think she ruined? No, not even. How much money do you think it costs to make up the damages of what she did here? Because she like burst through the front door, $10,000. Then I'm counting up all these things in my head. I'm like, all right, that glass panel, that's $4. That door frame and aluminum is that's at least 10 right there.
I'm sure the city will take care of it.
She smashes with her big hand. She smashes the cashier's like where you pay or whatever.
Oh yeah, the counter space.
The counter space. She smashes the whole counter. So yeah. Anyway, I was just like, man, she's causing a lot of damage for no reason.
Yeah. She just comes in and she's like,
she could have just grabbed him with her
guy.
hand.
Yeah, like, hey, bad guy, and then like makes it like smashes and stuff. Like,
yeah, just Hulk smashing, I guess.
Yeah, I did like Bruno had the strange things are afoot at the Circle Q. A little callback line to Bill and Ted.
Yes, but it also did to me. That was one of the lines that stood out. Like what?
Yeah,
like why would you say that in this moment?
That's his favorite. Maybe that's his favorite.
I'm going to say this: no one in 2015 was like, you know what movie is my favorite thing? Bill and Ted. And you know why? Because none of those people knew about Bill and Ted until that third movie came out recently, and then made it a thing again. So no one knows about any of these things until they reboot them or whatever. So
that's true.
Then all of a sudden, everybody loves Back to the Future and shit. Like, or because Stranger Things showed it, or the newest thing. Oh my God. Don't get me started on Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. I was knew you were going to say that.
Kate motherfucking Bush is a genius, masterful musician.
A Kate Bush fan.
I've been a Kate Bush fan. Different band. I've been a Kate Bush fan for
George W. Bush.
25 years, something
like
that. A long time. Big fan. Try to tell people about her. They're always like, it's lame. I don't like it. It's lame music. It's on the one fucking 15-second clip of Stranger Things, and now it's everybody's goddamn favorite song. Fuck all you people. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Great song, though. Definitely go check out Kate Bush if you haven't. All of her albums are great, and she could use the money, I'm sure, because, no one bought her albums forever. Thanks, everybody who now says that she's awesome. Buy them now, at least. So
yeah. Make it up to her now.
Yeah.
Buy them twice.
Exactly. Buy them twice. Do people buy albums anymore? I don't even know.
I don't.
Spotify that shit as much as possible. Yeah. Stream that as much as possible. Anyway.
I buy albums though.
You would.
I would. I like owning the music.
You know what? That's not a bad reason to do it, because even with comics, I get worried because an issue will come out, something controversial happens, and if I bought it digitally, that shit gets changed instantly. Mm-hmm. They will upload the new pages or whatever the new censored pages or whatever. Like that just happened with the Conan comic I bought. Yeah. Luckily, I bought the actual one because I buy actual comics for Conan. But like, if I buy digital stuff, I'm not getting the uncensored original shit. They're gonna censor it if there's any controversy on anything. So, and even things. Oh, even worse than that. This is worse to me. If you try to buy newer printings of older comics, say Swamp Thing from the 80s, they recolored that for the absolutes. Personally, I hate the new coloring, but it's the absolute of it, so whatever. They uploaded those as the issues as well. So like you are stuck. You don't get to see Tatiana Wood's fantastic coloring from the 80s unless you buy older physical versions of it.
Oh dang.
So like that's like she's just getting erased as a colorist, an amazing colorist for Swamp Thing.
Oh, that sucks. That's horrible.
Yeah. So like that makes me more mad than like if we don't want to show this character's boobies anymore, so we're gonna censor them.
Is that like a royalties thing, or is it just trying to update it? Or?
I have no idea. I think they're just like, you know what's new? You know what's better? New shit. Fuck that old shit.
Old and busted, new hotness.
Exactly. And then it's like, look like someone took neon color pencils to the fucking coloring. So, like, I'll show you it later. We'll do a compare. Maybe I'll do a video on that, comparing, contrasting old coloring and new coloring, and what the fuck is wrong with
that's another in what really grinds Matt's gears.
Yeah. Old man Hansen and what he hates. These young people, youth.
So Kamala Khan busts into this store and smashes and breaks up. Young people not caring about this stuff.
Yes.
And she does grab Victor and Bruno's brother, and she like starts squeezing him. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't gonna do it anyway. Let me go." And so when she does, I guess he's almost gonna throw up, and he's falling, and the gun goes off somehow.
Yeah,
he pulls the trigger somehow.
He says the gun just went off by itself. He pulled the trigger, obviously, somehow, but they don't. That was the thing. Like, I didn't know how we're supposed to feel about Victor because obviously he's not a good kid. He wants his brother to steal. He doesn't want to. I mean, he does steal eventually because he's desperate because he's working for some other bad guy. And then, I don't believe that he didn't squeeze the trigger to shoot her. That would have been a more poignant moment as well. Because later on, when we get into this, we'll kind of breeze through the end of this because it is pretty quick after this. But like he is just kind of looked at like, aw, like she just takes pity on him and is like, oh, you got to help him because it's bad to kill him. But like. Or like the bad guy's going to kill him. So, oh, it's bad. But like, what if he did like shoot her on purpose and then she has to like forgive him or at least go like, well, you don't deserve it, but I'm a hero. So I'm going to be the bigger person. And that's what heroes do. Exactly. Saturday morning cartoons. And then, so yeah, anyway, the gun goes off and she gets shot.
And she is bleeding.
She's bleeding from the abdomen. Yes, very, very much so. And she's just like, and then like, that's how the issue ends. So the next issue starts with Bruno and the brother over her. And she's looking up like from the ground because she's laying down. And so I think they said like we need an ambulance, call an ambulance. And the brother's like, no, you can't call anybody because I shot her and I'm the bad guy right here.
And do you know what that would do to our mother?
Yeah.
If I went to jail?
And so he basically says, like, you get out of here and I'll call 911 or whatever. So as Bruno's doing that, he's like, we need an ambulance. There's been a shooting. Someone's hit,
I did like this. He's like, Miss Marvel's been shot. And Kamala is trying to be like, no, it's me. And she's like, he's like, I'm sorry, Captain Marvel's been shot.
Yeah. It's Cat. And he's like, Captain Marvel. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mislabel you.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to change your name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then she's like, it's me. And then she pulls up her arm And then we see she transforms back into herself, and he's like, oh my God, Kamala. And then we see that she's actually shot in the abdomen. But then, very anticlimactically, we find out she has a healing factor, but
only when she is back in like her normal.
Yes. So when she was Captain Marvel, she was bleeding out, Miss Marvel. But then when she was transformed back, all of a sudden the bullet had gone through, and then all her wounds were pretty much healed, or at least stopped bleeding and were healing internally.
Which makes me wonder, so like, what if you shot her when she was just like normal looking?
What if you hit her with a bazooka?
that too.
She can't transform back.
She probably can't from that. But like, I'm saying, what if you shot? I am curious about how the power set works. So like, if you shoot her now while she's like this, does it just heal?
Good point. I didn't think about that, but that should totally come up at some point.
Yeah, we'll see. I will probably actually look up a little bit more about her stuff before the show, at least, just to compare things.
Yeah.
But anyway, and like the bullet pops out, and she's like, "Yeah, look, I'm fine. Like, and I'm healing. Everything's good to go.
Yeah, everything's good." And then the ambulance shows up. They're like, "Fraser, where's the bad guy?" They're like, "Oh, he's gone." Like, "Where's the victim?"
They're gone too.
Yeah, like basically, like nothing, no one go. And then she transforms back into Miss Marvel in order to get away from the cops or whatever, or the scene. And as she does, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm not done healing yet," because it's like the transitioning taxes her system,
Yeah.
So, it was just like an interesting view of her power. She can't keep that form, so then she just puts a mask over, like a sleep mask over her face.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, I'm Miss Marvel," like joking around as the cops come in.
And the cops are like, okay, well, you're not Miss Marvel. Like, you guys pranking us or whatnot. And she's like, no, I have powers. Look. And she kind of shows off, and she becomes big. And they're like, oh, okay, another superhero or whatever in our area. That's weird. But
and then they just kind of walk out.
Yeah, but they said there was a robbery and like someone was dying. So what's going on here? You making false reports? Like, they're still kind of like in this weird area. So he's like, no, that it was a misunderstanding. And they're like, okay, well, we'll be back probably for those for the surveillance camera, and we're gonna keep an eye on this bodega now.
Yeah,
some weird, strange things are indeed happening at the Circle Q.
Yes, very much so. So then we get like the I don't know what you call it. I guess it's the moment of where she's like, okay, I need to get a real costume now, right? So she comes up with the idea like, okay, I'm gonna make a costume. I want it to resemble Miss Marvel, but not be a fucking onesie bathing suit or whatever. So and like thigh high boots. So she gets home and she's like, "Where's my burkini?" So I guess this is like a bathing suit that women in the Muslim religion wear in order to be modest. It's kind of like a big oversized long shirt.
It's kind of like a tunic-y version of a bikini.
Yeah, it's like they have leggings and armings. Arm covers and leg covers, and also so it's like she's wearing a bodysuit underneath a full like a 60s dress is kind of what it looks like. But basically it's like a knee-high dress is what she's wearing. So and then I guess it's made out of like a flexible like swimsuit material so that they can go swimming or whatever. So she asked for that. The mom's like, "Why do you want that? You never wore it."
Yeah, you said you hated it.
Yeah, and but now all of a sudden you want it? Like, no, you can't go out, do whatever you're going to do. You're grounded, and you know that. Of course, she's like, "Sure, Mom," and then takes it and goes anyway. And we find out that she's meeting up with Bruno, who has told her everything about the brother, and that the brother is being harassed by someone named the Inventor, who's like a really big bad guy that his brother's working for. And no one's seen Victor. He didn't come back from I guess that night or whatever from the robbery. So they figure, okay, he's at this place where the Inventor is. They track him down. I think they use his phone or something.
Yeah, he said, brother, he says he uses his phone GPS, and he's in Greenville.
I don't know where
that is.
Some house in the suburbs. And as Miss Marvel gets there, we don't see her for a while. They keep her in shadow so we don't see her new costume. But then there's two people at the door that are guarding it. She takes them out, and then we see the reveal of her new costume. I like that instead of a sash, she has a fanny pack.
Yeah.
Which I thought was useful, at least. It's a different kind of pouch, you know? It's a new kind of pouch. It's the new pouch. The fanny pack.
The fanny pack.
So that's part of her costume. But like you said, the rest of her is like, it's a red, I guess, undergarment that is covers her arms and legs, and then and probably torso as well. And then on top of that is a blue skirt or whatever. Not skirt, full dress or whatever. That goes down
like
her.
it's like kind of like a smaller dresser.
I guess it doesn't go down to her knee. It goes down to her like mid thigh. Yeah. So tunic. I don't know what a fucking tunic is. So you tell me if that's right.
That's what I'm saying. It was like a tunic because it makes me think of like a knight would wear.
When I think tunic, I think of like, I don't know why, but like Greeks. Is that a tunic? No, the toga. That's thinking togas.
Yeah. No, tunic. I think of knights because it's like it comes down to like just past your just before your knees usually.
I got you. So yeah. Anyway, she breaks into the house. She finds right away that there are these little mechanical devices that are weaponized, so they look like little spiders or something. They look like kind of steampunk though.
Yeah.
So which is a hint to
freaking lasers on their heads. They
have freaking lasers on their heads. But they're kind of like spiders that have lasers on their heads, but they're mechanical. So she destroys them and then is confronted by, another kid in his, or in the followers that she knocked out. I guess in the door, they come down a different way and tell the bad guy who's wearing a shirt that says "I'm a bad guy" on it.
And his name is Doyle. I thought that was good bad guy name.
There you go. Doyle. So Doyle is there, and he's got a laser gun, like a 6-shooter, kind of hanging around his waist. And she's able to dodge the lasers as they fight, and she holds her own pretty good. Like, I mean, for someone who has no fight training at all, she's at least using her powers to her ability, to her advantage, and like she can juke. We'll say that for her. She's got a good juke on her.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You know what? And one of the things here I forgot, she does get like a laser blast on her side, and it gets her in her normal-ish form. Her, she's not transformed. It does hurt.
It's kind of like a graze, though. I don't know how bad it was, but she does get she does heal from it.
Yeah, but she does feel it right away, so that's why I wasn't sure how it works exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like they mention her healing factor after this because when she comes home, so basically she goes there, she fights the guys okay, but she doesn't save the brother. They're unable to save him.
She's a little overwhelmed, so she's like, I'll be back, and she kind of shrinks herself and gets out of there. Yeah, so she gets out, she goes home. She's pretty weak when she gets home, and then she's like, I need to eat. Like basically, her metabolism has increased based on her powers being used, cool. Which makes sense. Yeah, so she starts eating and then falls asleep in mid eating, and then wakes up to her parents yelling at her at the breakfast table, like, "What the fuck happened?" Because she's in her bikini or her burkini, and then. Yeah. So it's like you went out, you came home in the middle of the night, you ate all this food and left it out, and fell asleep on the table. What the fuck were you doing? And I did like this part a little bit too, because it's again, you get a little bit more of that caring family. Because the mom is overly freaked out, and the dad's like, "Honey, go in the other room, and I will talk to daughter." It's gonna have like a father-daughter talk, and it starts out very like, okay, this is really weird and erratic.
What is going on?
What is going? Like, talk to me now. Father to daughter, what is going on? You can tell me anything. Yeah. This is not you.
And she's basically like, I can't tell you everything because I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
So she's like, I can't tell you what it is, but I'm working through it. Don't worry about it.
But it's nice. She gives him enough of an explanation to make him feel a little more comfortable, and they come to like okay, right. I trust you to figure this out. Don't freak out your mother anymore. I love you. And they have this really sweet moment. And then he does the dad thing and ruins it and is like, but maybe you should go to the mosque a little more.
And also, you're still grounded.
Yeah.
And then he walks away.
And he walks, yeah. Okay. So it was, it's I like the relationship.
So in the meantime, she realizes, okay, I need to train.
Training montage time.
So we get a montage. So she and Bruno begin training for things and also like applying his stretchy formula to her outfit.
His super snot.
Yes. His super snot onto her outfit so it can stretch, because that was one of the things she said was hard. Was like when she's trying to move and stuff or stretch and dodge shit, it's like it's confining and it won't move. So he puts that on her outfit, and then so she can stretch. Then she works on like all the different aspects of her power, like, oh, she can run faster if she grows her legs really tall. oh, she can shrink down and do this or that. So they work on all that stuff. Then they break into the house again. Now, I don't know. You were saying this. I don't know how long it takes to break into the house.
Yeah, the amount of time of
his brother is about to be killed is what they're telling us the first time she goes there. Then they're able to do a training montage. So I don't know if that's hours, days, weeks, whatever.
Yeah, we don't know the length of time. Oh, and she puts the Miss Marvel
the lightning
bolt on her front
chest.
of her chest. But yeah, so like all that goes on, they make the uniform. It has to dry. It says specifically they have to let it dry, and she does all this training.
Yeah,
and then goes back, and he's still in like the basement room.
They're still waiting for the inventor to come collect your brother. So. She is able to get in there again, but now she is trained, so she's kind of kicking ass more. And she is able to get a hold of Victor and get him out of there. And everybody's super pissed, but like she doesn't fight him. She just I thought it was fun that she's just like a yoink and just like runs out as fast as possible. Because that's all you need to do. You don't need to fight these people or get in danger or put Victor in more danger or whatever.
Yeah.
Just get him out of there. That's what's important. So that's what they do. They get the hell out of there. They save the day. And then the next day, there is some foreboding action at the bodega that Bruno works at. So they're walking there.
It's also fixed.
Oh yeah, it's all fixed up. It's all that construction team works very fast.
They're got a good team in that area.
Yeah, no wait times on any of that stuff at all. So, but they're walking towards the bodega for him to go to work. Kamala and him and. As they're walking up, they see there's like an or like a doll, kind of like we'll say a scarecrow or whatever of Miss Marvel, and it says there's a message on it, and the message is for Miss Marvel, and it's basically from the bad guy. So John, you were saying you thought maybe they figured out her actual identity, but I think it's more of like this is where she was last seen. We'll leave the doll here. Obviously, she lives in the neighborhood.
I was hoping that was like how did they figure that out? Like they're gonna have to tell us that but that makes sense. It's probably more of just like. She was seen in this area. She saved, or Victor probably mentioned, as far as like there was, that's where Miss Marvel was when he failed. So yeah, so we're gonna find out that there is the bigger bad a little bit from this.
Yes, and so we see the guy. What's this dude's name? Doyle, the guy with the 6-shooter laser gun that was keeping Victor hostage. He's in some kind of big laboratory in an abandoned coal plant, and he's like. Mr. Edison. So that's the inventor. His name is Mr. Edison. And he's like, I don't know what happened, but, Victor got away and there was this girl and blah, blah, blah. And we find out, like, we get the big reveal of the bad guy's face as he turns around and is like, the girl is walking the streets of New Jersey City in a costume, calling herself Miss Marvel. You haven't created a problem. You've created an urban legend, Doyle.
How dare you, Doyle?
Yeah, and so as he says that, he turns around, and we see that this guy is a big chicken.
He looks like a big cockatoo.
He's a big cockatoo.
Yeah, that was the last reveal of this. I was like, what?
What? Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of the first arc of Miss Marvel. John, what would you give it? What'd you think?
Overall, besides the last little villain reveal, I did like it a lot. And, I felt like even though it's that initial, kind of has to go through and hit the numbers as far as like, this is the new hero and this is her powers and this is what she does. I think it does it in a pretty decent way. Like I never really was like, I had more questions about things, but I never was like bored or like, what? That doesn't make sense. I would just like, that's cool. What are the what's the extremes of those?
Yeah, what is this exact?
Yeah, like how does it work on a high end? How does it work on a low end? Like
right. We hope those get explored later on.
Exactly, but nothing made me be like that's dumb or or I didn't hate anything. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like we'll see how that plays out.
Right.
So that was fun, and it made me definitely like it. It's piqued my interest enough to be like, okay, now I definitely want to.
You want to watch the show?
I want to watch the show.
You fucking Marvel nerd.
Yeah, like I liked this is going to be my wife talking through me because she makes me watch a lot of those teenage drama shows. But
John loves Dawson's Creek.
I have had to watch that whole series like 2 times now with her. The whole series. Oh my!
I was joking. Jesus Christ.
But when she watches some of the ones that are not as like they're just like kind of more feel good. They're not quite as dramatic. Like there's been some on Netflix now that she's made me watch. The Heartstopper is a newer one that I'll shout out that because I actually really did enjoy it. Because the drama wasn't as drama-y. Like they actually, kids were like, no, we're going to talk through this and find resolutions.
Just that was cool. Stop talking.
Anyway, so I will say I liked all that in this. Like it didn't feel like too overly complicated, and I liked the relationships that she had with her friends and especially her family in this case. And yeah, I'm curious. I like the character enough. Like I would kind of see where it goes. So,
yeah. What would you give it?
I would give this a solid 6.5.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty good rating there. So I, despite all my preconceived notions, I try to go into things, even if I have preconceived notions, blank. Like I will put that aside and then like, okay, we're getting into this. Like I picked it up from the rack, never heard of it. That's how I try to go into like everything that I'm like, that we're reviewing or whatever that we're going through. And so I actually like this comic quite a bit. I thought there were some little missteps, but nothing like crazy or whatever. Like I said, if I had read this on the shelf, like when it was coming out, I pick up first issue, I probably would have bought at least all the way up to 5. And then maybe at the chicken head ending, I would have been like, all right, I think I'm solid with this book. Or whatever. Like, I think I'm done. But that's just because like it was a weird kind of silly end reveal of what the guy looked like, the bad guy, like the inventor.
I think the teenage superheroes have to have some kind of corny villains too. Like
but like
Spider-Man has some really corny. He has some really good ones too. Don't get me wrong, but some of them are pretty corny and silly. Even Batman has some silly.
Name one. I'm yeah, I think it's just because like that was when you look at those. Yeah, it was corny and silly, but that was written in the 60s. This is written in 2015, so I would expect I had higher expectations. Kind of like I can go back and watch the X-Men movies or Blade or something, right? And I like them. I have an affinity for them because they came out when I was a kid and they were awesome then. But you could definitely see the flaws, and like that superhero movies have gotten better.
Gotten way better.
And we judge those harder because of that. We judge the newer ones harder, or we should, because there's such a high standard or high bar set. So
that's true.
I feel like this should have a higher bar than those at least. But either way, I was enjoying this fully, and I really liked the family aspect, but in the way that it was like different. I can't think of a fundamentalist or more like strict religious hero, or especially a kid hero that has. No. I mean, I can think of like Daredevil is Catholic and pretty Catholic, but he's an adult, so it is different. Peter Parker doesn't go to church or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of another character from Marvel or DC that had religion in it so much, but like in not a bad way. It was just like adding another flavor to it that was interesting because it caused struggle in the character. Like, because she's growing up in America and not in Pakistan and has her own dreams and desires based on like that and how she grew up. And also her viewpoint on maybe how some of those religious ceremonies or customs are old fashioned or whatever. Like that sets up in her, it sets up conflict in her, personality and trying to become who she wants to be kind of thing. So I liked that aspect of it. I thought that was good. And then the art I thought was really solid. Like the only thing I said was, like I said, back characters had like potato faces. So I was like, what? Okay, whatever. But like when anybody was close up, there was great detail. I liked the coloring on it as well. It kind of had like a pastel kind of wash color to it or whatever. So I liked that. And then I thought the only thing that I thought was like kind of could have been better was the main guy she's trying to save, Victor, Bruno's brother. I feel like he could have been a bad guy, like an actual. They don't let him be a bad guy in this. I'm not sure why, but like it's almost like they're like, well, we can't have him be bad. Let's just have him be like misguided, like horribly misguided. So stupid that he's misguided, and like so she doesn't want to. Like, you can't have him do anything really bad. I mean, he's robbing a store, but at least it's his brother and he can talk to him. And then he's got a gun, but it goes off on accident. Like I feel like they should have leaned harder into that and been like, he's robbing the store, and yeah, maybe he didn't realize it was going to be his brother, but he's pointing the gun at his brother because he's so desperate. That adds like the desperation. Otherwise, it's just kind of like he's there being stupid, and he's not really in a desperate mode with the inventor. Or whatever, you know what I mean? So, and then like that desperation would have shown through if he actually pointed the gun at Kamala and shot her. That would have been like, what? And then that causes like a whole thing between her and Bruno because it's his brother, and like that would add more drama or like more story, conflict or whatever. So, I thought that was like a something that could have been better. But overall, I thought it was fun. We got to see her powers grow and everything. The montage I thought was funny, and the whole like how long was this? We don't know, but like we'll just say it was minutes to hours because of training and whatever. But yeah, so I'm gonna give this a solid 6. I think it was better than average. Like I said, the story made sense. Everything was fine. It was a good introduction to a new character, and if I was younger and more of a Marvel person, I think I could like this even more, potentially. So, it's definitely not for me. Like, I wouldn't continue reading this. I actually read one more issue, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty set on this isn't for me. But I don't think it's not for anybody, So, like, if this sounded interesting, definitely check it out. Or if you're intrigued before, the show comes out. It's a really quick read. It's only like 108 pages, this first trade. So, definitely check that out. If you want to. But for me personally, I was like, it's better than an average comic, like a 5. But I wouldn't continue reading it. I would give it to a kid and be like, hey, check out this new hero. I think it's good for that. I think it's good, like, if you're like I said, if I had money to throw around and this was coming out, I was like, oh, let me try out this new #1 or whatever. I might do that. But overall, I thought it was solid, just not for me, kind of thing. Not my speed. Not that it's not for me, but it's just not the kind of comics that I like in general. I'm biased against Marvel anyway, so it's got to be a really, really good Marvel comic for me to like really get into it. So, yeah, I'm just prejudiced against Marvel. That's all.
Marvel hater here.
Marvel hater.
He tries real hard to make this a DC podcast, but we all know that.
What are you talking about? I don't do that. DC. I don't do that at all. There's no reason why most of our episodes are DC stuff. Every now and then we'll pepper in a Marvel or an indie or something. But hey, I got to spread the love. That company is struggling. All right. So anyway, next week, what are we reading, John?
So this month we're celebrating Pride. It is June, and so we're going to read some stuff based on LGBTQ characters, writers, authors. This week we are doing some characters. They're gay characters from the comic The Authority.
Yes, and they're not all gay in that, but no. the two main characters of this a team called The Authority are Midnighter and Apollo. They are a couple. They're two men, and so. But I read this a long time ago, like in the early 2000s.
Well, and this is from the 90s, so this is quite.
Like, 99 is when this came out.
Okay.
And so at the time, I couldn't really tell you if there were any other characters that were superheroes that were gay, men that like were like outwardly gay or whatever. Yeah. So like they have a relationship on the. It'd be like if you go to the Justice League. And you turn the page, and Batman and Superman are making out, and it's like everybody's like, "Oh, they're kids, they're in love or whatever." It's not a big. They don't try to like, look at this or whatever. They're just like they just do it, and it fits the characters. And I remember reading that and being like, "Wow, this is like really, really good." And so I don't remember when, like, if there's like a certain arc that's better than others as far as their relationship. But we're gonna read the first story arc of it, and so that's The Authority. And other than that, I'm trying to think, like, it's just a side, it was originally a Wildstorm book that when DC bought Wildstorm from Jim Lee, they got folded into the DC universe. So, and they're actually in Action Comics right now. So, the characters Midnighter, who's like their Batman, and Apollo, who's their Superman, are fighting with Superman on War World in Action Comics right now.
Oh, nice.
So, really good story arc. So check that out too if you have any interest in the modern comics going on. But yeah, so we're gonna do that next week for Pride. just celebrate some gay characters that are out there. And so if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com.
Don't forget about our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content, as well as our Patreon. We have several of our tiers going up there, and we have a couple slots left on our special
super fan
tier.
Yeah, for Hellblazer, Matt's Minis. So it's only $2 right now. You get every issue that I've read so far, all the audio of that podcast. It's much like my Swamp Thing podcast, where I'm going through every issue of Hellblazer, though. So if you've ever wanted to know about that character or were intrigued at all, check that out for sure. It's very interesting. Going through it, it's been a while since I've read through them, so it's very cool to go through. And I love talking with all you guys about it. Me and one of the current subscribers of that, we talk all the time about how awesome Hellblazer is and everything. So that's been fun. And so if you have any interest in that, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word. And with that, I think we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.